Hey everybody, it's Warpstar here, back after a pretty long break in making videos. 9 months to be exact. The reasoning for that is actually pretty simple. Because right now I'm living in Japan. Living here has been really cool, even with all the restrictions with COVID going on. But finding a place to record has always been a difficult thing to adjust to. But either way, I think it's been long enough, so now that I have some time to myself, I thought I would finally sit down and finish this story. Before we move forward, however, I want to give a huge thanks to my voice actors for their amazing line reads, and also my friend Ash, who drew the art of Cassandra that you're going to see in this video. I wasn't a huge fan of the last episode using a PNG of the comic book version of Cass, so Ash kind of came in clutch with the extra artwork. Hopefully it goes a long ways to making this video feel more immersive. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. Last we left off, Cassandra Cain made her debut to the Z Fighters as Mercenary Tao's weapon against those who ruined his life. In a shocking twist, however, Cassandra and Tien's fight brought out the best in her, who defied her father at the last minute. Disowning her and making his escape, Cass now has earned a spot among the Z Fighters under Tien's care. After knocking Tien out of the tournament, Cassandra is now a quarter-finalist and is allowed to move on to the second round of the tournament. But first she gets to bear witness to Chi-Chi and Goku's simultaneous fight/engagement in the midst of the ring. She isn't entirely sure what just happened, but she cheers when the crowd does, albeit a little quietly, finding herself blushing. Launch and Bulma are really happy to have another girl in the group, and they encourage this sort of behavior. They attempt to talk to Cass at first, but then quickly find out it's a pretty fruitless effort. Bulma would probably begin coming up with ways to teach Cassandra how to talk, but is quickly brought back to the action when the next round of the tournament begins. Afterward, we get to see Krillin vs Piccolo Jr., which, as you remember, Krillin actually does pretty decent in, but he still gets eliminated either way. We see Cass have this awful feeling about Piccolo Jr., and the rest of the group reassures her that those feelings are correct. In the next round of the tournament, Cassandra would show visible confusion with the one called Hero. Something about the way he moves just didn't seem right to Cass. The group is saddened when Yamcha gets eliminated, and they're pretty surprised at the overall strength of this new mysterious fighter. Which brings us to the first round of the quarterfinals, Son Goku vs Cassandra. Goku is raring to fight Cassandra after she managed to beat Tien. Tien, after all, beat Goku in the last tournament. Cassandra's also pretty excited to fight Goku, especially now that she doesn't have to kill him. It's a little awkward for her at first, but she quickly finds herself calming down amongst the atmosphere that Goku and his friends give off. Everyone is so nice to her that it's making her emotions swell in ways that she never thought they could. She goes into her fight with Goku excitedly. The announcer calls the match, and the battle begins. Goku learned a lot during his training with Kami, and he's pretty eager to show it off. Cassandra, whose punches had even Tien on his back foot, finds her strikes doing little in the way of damaging Goku. He's surprisingly tough. Goku, on the other hand, finds his attempted kicks and jabs failing to connect with Cassandra at all. Before he even throws them, his punches and kicks are easily read by Cass, who either blocks or dodges. Goku starts getting excited. It's like she knows everything he can do before he does it, and that's pretty amazing to him. He steps back and throws out a heavy punch towards Cass, who rolls away, getting some distance between the two of them. He compliments her fighting, but says he still has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. In front of everyone, he pulls off his weighted clothes and throws them to the ground. Cass blinks, confusedly lifting up his shoe, pretty astonished at how much it weighs. He was moving pretty fast for someone who had this much weight on him. After a bit of stretching, Goku gets ready to continue the match. When the fight resumes, Cass is immediately back onto the back foot. Goku's blindingly fast and exceptionally strong, and it took Cassandra everything she had to keep pace. Even being able to call his next move wasn't helping too much, and it had her actually getting kind of excited. To shake things up a bit, Cassandra opted to attempt her signature move pretty quickly, channeling her ki into her leg. As Goku moved to throw a strike towards her gut, Cassandra drops, kicking her leg outward and successfully sweeping Goku off of his feet, giving her some more breathing room. Despite getting knocked off balance, Goku catches himself on his palm, flipping around and landing back on his feet, smiling. Cass pants, but Goku seems to be doing pretty fine. He's not in the least bit tired. Cass takes a breath and focuses, ready to continue the fight. She recognizes that she's not as physically powerful as Goku, and that she'll need to change her strategy. She wasn't expecting to go straight to her signature technique, but she begins channeling her ki into her fists. She opens up the next clash by thrusting her fingers outward and letting out a Dodon Ray, which Goku disperses entirely using a Ki. He's momentarily surprised that it was such a weak variant of the blast, but he quickly comes to realize that it's just a distraction. Cass rushes forward in the confusion to begin her counter, attempting to match Goku's power with her own amp. Realizing he's exposed, Goku leaps into the air behind Cassandra, who of course sees the move coming, turning around to throw an overhead punch towards the airborne Goku. But as she turns around, She's met face to face with Goku, who's still airborne, hands beside his head as he calls out a point-blank mid-air solar flare. Cass chastises herself as her vision goes blinding white and she staggers. Goku comments on how Ten Shinhan had the right idea to use the solar flare. His only problem was giving Cassandra enough warning to counter it. So Goku decided to use a technique that no one was aware he had learned, in the most unconventional way possible. Cassandra moves to focus on sensing Goku's ki, and tries to counter it in any way she can, but given that she could barely keep pace with her eyesight, she can't hope to keep pace here. Goku slips under her guard, catching her with a few more blows to her stomach before nailing her with a powerful kick, sending her flying out of the ring. It's a neat little callback to how Jackie Chun defeated Goku in the first martial arts tournament. Cassandra may have been a fierce opponent, but Goku's training on Kami's lookout prepared him more than anyone could have predicted. Cassandra steps up and brushes herself off, realizing that she lost as her vision clears. She looks back at Goku and gives him a smile, stepping out of the ring and taking her seat back among the stands with the Dragon team. She's not upset at all that she actually had to lose. In fact, she's excited to try again at one point. From then on, the rest of the tournament plays out as normal, except Cass is horribly confused as to what Piccolo Jr. is and what a Kami is. The gang tries to fill her in, to little effect. Despite the odds having never been higher, Goku manages to defeat Piccolo Jr. and free Kami, keeping Piccolo alive to fight another day. At the end of such a long day, Cass doesn't really have anywhere to go. However, pretty immediately, Launch suggests that Cassandra comes back to live with Ten Shinhan, Chaozu, and herself. Bulma also offers to help find a way to teach Cassandra to talk, or help her communicate in some way. Though she gets pretty sad thinking about her dad and her uncle, who have now opted to just leave her behind. She didn't want to outright betray her dad. Even after all the cruelty he had put her through, he was still her dad. One day she hoped the two of them could find a way to get along like Goku and his friends did. Over the next 5 years, Cass begins to live out her days alongside Tien, Chaozu, and Launch, with visits to Bulma and such. Cass and Tien practice martial arts, Good Launch teaches Cassandra about the outside world, and Cassandra begins a journey to find herself and her own identity. This 5-year time skip gives Cassandra a chance to develop new abilities and explore the dragon world that she's missed out on. Bulma, I think, could take her off of Launch and Tien's hands for a while, and allow her to see the city and go on shopping trips, while also trying to improve Cass's understanding of the world around her. The elephant in the room is learning how to talk. Learning language is really difficult after a failure to grasp it at a really young age, and while we know that she does learn it inevitably in the DC universe, it might take a while in this incarnation. Some of you might be asking, hey Warp, why don't they just make a wish on the Dragon Balls to get her to talk normally? I think it would be brought up once or twice, but I don't think it's in Cassandra's nature to do so. When offered the chance to simply make a wish and solve her issues, she denies it. The personal satisfaction she gets from improving day by day brings her great joy. Bulma doesn't 100% get it, but she gives, and lets Cassandra continue to learn in her own way. After 2 years or so, Cassandra finds training with Tien to be stagnating a bit. They both get better each and every day, but Tien's just a strict disciplinarian when it comes to fighting. Cass wants something more than that, something she can't really grasp. With whatever lessons Bulma had taught her, she left a small note telling Tien that she was going to explore the world. And she brought Launch alongside with her too. In traveling the Dragon World, Cassandra would form a name for herself here and there, be it by stopping Blonde Launch from stealing, or coming across a random person in danger from a dinosaur or something. Cassandra greatly enjoys the feeling of helping others. It's the complete opposite of the life her father wanted her to live. Her primary opponent in these times of peace would probably just be the Pilaf gang, who would go about trying to rob people of various possessions and get rich quickly. They would of course be no match for Cass, but the reputation of the silent hero would rise steadily, especially after her performance in the last World Tournament. In her and Launch's time throughout the world, the two become very close. Cass was perfect for standing up to Blonde Launch and getting along very well with Good Launch. Good Launch would continue to quiz Cassandra on reading and writing, though Cassandra still heavily struggled to grasp that concept. Even so, she still worked incredibly hard to understand language. Cass often wondered if she would run into her Uncle Shen or her father Tao while traveling around, but she never decided to seek them out in specific. In all of their time abroad, they did not once come into contact with them. Quite the opposite, in fact. After a few months of traveling around, Cassandra found herself on the island of Master Roshi, after Good Launch recommended they go and visit. She found the island to be really quaint and beautiful. Krillin was happy to meet her again personally, seeing as it had been 2 years since they'd met. Master Roshi greeted Cassandra respectfully. He was not about to make any sort of moves on his former friend's niece, nor the girl who had busted up Ten Shinhan. She bowed respectfully, and would use what little she had picked up, with Good Launch's help, to formally ask if Master Roshi would train her. There wasn't much for her to improve in the realms of strength, but Roshi could feel there were techniques and lessons that could benefit the young warrior. He accepts, but he asked Krillin to show her the ropes of the Turtle School. For the remainder of the time skip, Cassandra would absorb and learn the teachings of Master Roshi, becoming a student of both Crane and Turtle schools. While strong enough to work through the drills, it was other fields where Cassandra found herself lacking. Every day, Cassandra would struggle to practice speech and reading. Cass and Krillin would spend the day sparring, which greatly helps Krillin's strength grow. In terms of martial arts prowess, it was pretty hard to surpass Cass. As a pure martial artist, the only thing Cassandra struggles in is the raw strength that Goku and his other rivals give off. If it ever came down to purely martial arts, there would be no question. Krillin made up for the divide in martial arts skill with the unorthodox teachings of the Turtle School, much like Goku had. Overall, Krillin grows stronger over the 5-year time skip thanks to the two working together. One clear night, with the waves calmly breaching against the sand while all others were asleep, Cass rose from her bed and went outside, looking towards the horizon. With a determined expression, she drops low, pulling her arms behind herself. On staggering words, she pronounces the iconic phrase, letting her ki flow out as she calls out her own Kamehameha, letting loose a blast of white energy that let itself loose over the horizon, disappearing in a moment. She took deep breaths. She had been working for a while to perfect the Kamehameha, and she had finally done it. And yet, the momentary feeling of victory left her a moment later. She knew why. She kicked sand. That was when Master Roshi decides to make his presence known.
With every attack, you hesitate. When meditating, you cannot clear your mind of confusion. It's not your fault, Cassandra. Your father and uncle have ingrained the urge to kill within you. Tien and I have put you on a path of peace. You hold back to ensure none are injured, but deep within you, you can hear every order to kill Tao has ever placed upon you. I can only leave you my teachings, but the day will come when you must make a choice on who you truly wish to be, my student.
Cassandra bows to her mentor. Then she returns to bed, the question still ringing in her mind. Fortunately for her, the answer to her question would be coming pretty soon. For in the early morning the next day, Earth would be seeing another visitor from beyond the stars, as Raditz arrives on Earth to find his brother Kakarot. The events of that day would play out roughly the same, all the way until Goku, Gohan, and Bulma arrive at Kame House. Bulma was happy to see Cass again, and Goku was raring for a rematch when he sensed how strong her and Krillin had gotten. This scene also introduces Gohan to Cass. Cass would take an instant liking to him, knowing that he was just an innocent and carefree little kid. For a brief moment, she would play on the beach with him while Goku caught up with his other friends. It was looking to be a pretty good day, until they felt a malevolent ki make itself known. Everyone looked up in shock as Raditz lands on the beach. Raditz, as usual, reveals the nature of Goku's origins to the group, and makes his goal known. When the situation goes south, Goku and Krillin are knocked aside. Even with Cass's fighting style, her strength hasn't grown anywhere close to Raditz, and she's slammed aside protecting Gohan, fearfully crying out as Raditz grabs him and demands Kakarot join him within the next 24 hours. Recovering quickly, Goku's about to chase Raditz on his own when Piccolo arrives. The two opt to work together, zooming off into the distance, while Cass helps Krillin up. The battle between Raditz and Goku plays out pretty much exactly how it does in canon. Only this time, Cassandra is there to witness Goku perish. This event is really scarring to Cassandra. Goku was someone she respected a lot, one whose actions and kindness had helped her see a different way of thinking. And here he was, slowly dying. This is the first person she's ever met who she's actually watched perish in general, let alone someone she actually cared about. Krillin, however, is quick to bring up the Dragon Balls, and that they can wish Goku back to life. This, of course, as we know, alerts Nappa and Vegeta, who declare that they'll make their year-long journey to Earth to get their wish. With the looming threat of Saiyans even more powerful than Raditz, Piccolo steps forward and demands to take Gohan with him. Cassandra, however, stands defiantly in Piccolo's way. Realizing that it's probably not a good idea to engage them in a one-on-one battle, Piccolo holds his hands at the side of his head and calls out the Solar Flare technique. Then, using his extendable arms, reaches out and grabs Gohan before making his getaway. As the Z-Fighters all sit around blind, Piccolo tells Cass that she'll have nothing to worry about, and that Gohan's potential is going to be unleashed fully. Cass feels completely defeated, like an utter failure even. Dejectedly, she mourns alongside the other Z-Fighters, making plans in her head for what to do next. With the Saiyans on their way, Cass joins Yamcha, Krillin, Chaozu, Yajirobe, and Ten Shinhan in their preparation for the Saiyans, under the tutelage of Kami. Her speaking lessons get put on the back foot as they start training for the year they have before the Saiyans show up. She's really happy to see Tien and Chaozu again, but she's notably depressed and aggressive during their training drills. She practically kills herself in their preparation, and for several months she barely gives herself time to rest. She feels awful for what happened to Goku, and especially not being strong enough to save Gohan from Piccolo. She doesn't want any possible technique she could know to escape her. While she's most comfortable in an up-close confrontation, she's more than willing to go outside her comfort zone and help learn new techniques from her friends. Against Ten Shinhan's better judgment, he decides to teach her the basics of the Tri-Beam, but he explains how dangerous the technique is and how she shouldn't jump to use it under any circumstance. She gets the risks, but her mind is still swirling with ideas on how to apply the technique. How's she going to combine both the Crane and Turtle School's teachings? There had to be some sort of middle ground between the two, some sort of blend. Meanwhile, Gohan and Piccolo's training progresses roughly the same, and the same goes for Goku on King Kai's planet. When the time comes, Cass is more than ready to fend the Saiyans off, and do her best to keep anyone else from dying. As the Z Warriors head down to meet the Saiyans, they're soon joined by Piccolo and Gohan. Cass rushes over to Gohan to check over him and make sure that he's okay. Piccolo scoffs. Gohan remembers this lady from last year, but he realizes he never caught her name. Not much time to actually introduce themselves, however, because soon enough, Nappa and Vegeta arrive. She's terrified to feel that they're far stronger than she imagined.
How pathetic. You see, Nappa? This is the best they could scrounge up.
As we know, the fight begins with the Cybermen. Cass is quick to use her body reading abilities on them like she did with Raditz and Piccolo a year ago. This allows her to warn Yamcha about the one trying to jump at him, and give the baseball star the opportunity to strike it down. Cass, roughly above Ten Shinhan in overall strength, has no effort in dealing with her Cybermen. Vegeta remarks that Cass is probably using some kind of Earth trick, and that the Cybermen were some sort of pointless warm-up. With that, Vegeta stops playing around, and instructs Nappa to lay waste to the Z Warriors. In place of Krillin, Cassandra opts to step up to fight Nappa first, content to put her life on the line before any of her other friends. Lighting her fists up with ki to amplify her punch, she throws a heavy uppercut into Nappa's jaw. Shockingly, however, Nappa simply tilts his head back down, almost unfazed by her powerful attack. Tien and Chaozu, not wishing to see their friend hurt, dive in to give Cassandra a hand. Nappa lets out an explosion of ki from his own body that throws the trio aside. It's obvious that this fight isn't going to be easy. In fact, it's one they might not even win. Tien and Cassandra, the students of the Crane School, take on Nappa in a 2 versus 1 assault. Cass going low, while Tien goes high. Are their combined powers enough to fend off the Juggernaut Saiyan? No, not really. Cass is unable to make any serious dent in Nappa's guard, and it frustrates her. She is, however, perfectly capable of avoiding his attacks due to her ability to read body language. Cass, sweeping around Nappa, gains his ire, and the brute charges up a punch that could very well have killed her had she not avoided it. As she rolls away from the punch, she intends to leave Nappa open to Tien's next move, a near point-blank Dodon Ray. Nappa, not to be outdone or let himself take a potentially fatal hit, sends a full-powered axe kick outward and rips Tien's hand from his body. Cass, in a shocked rage, leaves herself open to a blast from Nappa that sends her careening back, completely unlike her. Tien boldly attempts to stand and fight, regardless of the pain, but he's no match for Nappa in this state. Not about to stand by and watch his friends get beaten, Yamcha, who's actually still alive, attempts the Spirit Ball technique, which actually distracts Nappa from the fact that Cass and Krillin have linked up. Looking each other in the eyes, Cass looks back to Yamcha also, and the three nod towards each other. Together, the three friends attempt a combined Kamehameha. Nappa, at the challenge of might from the three Earth weaklings, takes a stance in midair as the three students of the Turtle School fire 3 separate Kamehamehas directly into Nappa. In all of this, Piccolo's keeping Gohan back and letting the other Z Warriors push Nappa to the brink. If it truly comes down to it, he'll get involved, but he doesn't intend to overexert himself just yet. As the smoke clears from Nappa's position, it's revealed that he threw up his defenses at the last second, and though he's winded, they clearly haven't made much, if any, progress. With little hope in sight, Tien finally decides to step up fully. As Nappa gloats about how ineffective the Z Warriors are, Ten Shinhan charges up the one-handed Tri-Beam technique. Cass watches in horror as Tien lets out a scream and lets loose the forbidden technique, interrupting Nappa's arrogant taunts. Cass's eyes are wide as the man who helped separate her from her father, her mentor, her brother, Ten Shinhan, passes away in front of her. He was content to have given his life fighting to save the Earth, content in knowing that his friends can win the day, and then later resurrect him with the Dragon Balls. Ten Shinhan, one of the strongest among them, is the first to go. Yamcha, Cass, and Chaozu, hardest of all, are grief-stricken. The hope for the planet Earth dwindles as Nappa cackles above them. He's scarred and his armor is broken, but he's more pissed off than hurt. He gives them credit for surprising them, but decides that playtime is finally over. Cass' feelings of failure from the Raditz Saga rear their heads once again, and in a rage, she follows Tien's lead. In a bout of anger-induced clarity, she crosses her hands in a full-on triangle formation, letting the life energy flow through her as she prepared her own version of the forbidden technique. Chaozu, knowing what she was doing, was horrified, and shouts for her to stop. Sure enough, Yamcha and Krillin called for her to stop as well, but she didn't listen. She couldn't listen. As her hands spark, she pulled both pieces of the triangle aside and let herself take the stance of the Turtle School. By fusing the Tri-Beam with her Key Knuckles, Cass uses a far more powerful variant of her coveted technique. Still in a rage at herself for her own failure, she charges Nappa and scores a satisfying punch that sends him staggering away. Cass lets her fury rain on the Saiyan, satisfied to be actually doing him harm. As her assault continues, her life energy begins to ebb from her body, and she begins to falter. Nappa, seeing his opening, grabs Cass as he rockets into the sky, twirling the enraged human girl around before throwing her into the ground, creating a crater where she lay, almost out cold. Nappa wipes his nose cockily, which he's surprised to see is actually broken. Nappa comments on her surprising strength, but exclaims that it was just as in vain as her Triclops friend. He prepares to erase Cassandra with a powerful beam attack, but stops short when he feels a small figure clamber onto his back. It's Chaozu, who's not about to let any more of his friends die. He prepares to blow himself up in the name of the Earth. Gohan, against Piccolo's wishes, rushes to Cass and helps pull her out into the side, where she's dazed, but watches in agony as Chaozu enacts his own ultimate sacrifice. His explosion silences the battlefield completely, but when the smoke clears, Nappa is still standing. Another one of Cassandra's closest friends is passed on, and her heart sinks. Emotions are swelling in her chest that she can barely comprehend. Never did she think that the battle with the Saiyans would go so wrong. It's at this moment that Krillin and Yamcha attempt to take Nappa on their own. They're pleased to see that Nappa isn't as unbreakable as they thought. After eating full-powered assaults from Tien, Chaozu, and Cass, they're still overall nowhere near a match for Nappa's brute strength, and as he moves to strike a potentially fatal blow, he's completely caught off guard by Piccolo suddenly opting into the fight, sending Nappa hurtling down to the ground. As Piccolo, Yamcha, and Krillin surround the downed Saiyan, Nappa uses his volcano explosion to blow the group away, creating a large hole in the ground. Bloodied, Nappa still stands strong, noting that the Earthlings managed to put up a much better fight than he had anticipated. But then, Nappa returns to his offense, ripping his way through his enemies and continuing to beat them down into bloodied pulps. After the effort of all his friends, Yamcha stands tall and attempts the blinding Wolf Fang Fist on Nappa, but Nappa is having none of it. The Saiyan warrior opts to fire eye beams as Yamcha comes in close, and the Desert Bandit is hit straight through the chest. He staggers onto his knees. He still attempts one last Spirit Ball, but it's not enough. Blasting away Krillin and Piccolo, Nappa buries his fist in Yamcha's stomach at full power. Yamcha collapses to the floor, lifeless. Though Cass may have been able to save him from the Cybermen, Nappa was a different story. After Yamcha's demise, Piccolo and Krillin attempt to depower Nappa by grabbing hold of his tail, a technique that helped them pretty well in the Raditz Saga. Much like in canon, Nappa still forces his way through it though, and knocks Piccolo unconscious. However, unlike what followed in canon, Nappa instead sets his sights back on Cass. Before he can strike the recovering Earthling, however, Gohan's rage rears its head once again, and an empowered Gohan goes on the offensive. It's pretty short-lived, when his rage boost begins to fade, and the Berserk Nappa pummels the small child aside. Krillin finally attempts the Destructo Disc on Nappa, only for Vegeta to warn him of Krillin's trickery at the last second. As Nappa goes to decimate Krillin, Piccolo reawakens and shoots him in the back. The Z-Warriors steel themselves for the next assault, before they all realize and sense that Goku's arrived back on Earth. Vegeta, quickly revealing that Piccolo is a Namekian, opts for Nappa to kill the remaining four. and that they simply need to go to Namek to get their wish afterward. Nappa lets loose another destructive wave, and prepares the break cannon to vaporize Gohan. Like in canon, we're treated to Piccolo sacrificing himself for Gohan and passing away, wiping Kami from the earth in the process. Cass is enraged that Gohan has to be here to witness these things, feeling as though Gohan's experiences must have been really similar to hers growing up. Battered and bruised, she's helped up by Krillin. Fortunately for them, not long after, we finally see the arrival of Goku. Having obtained more Senzu beans from Korin's tower in this short period, Cass, Gohan, and Krillin are all healed. Cassandra stands over Gohan protectively as they watch Goku effortlessly dismantle Nappa, absolutely shocked at how strong he had grown. Cass is a little upset that it took him so long to get back, but she's just thankful that Nappa is finally receiving the beatdown that he deserves. A moment later, after his back is broken, Nappa is completely wiped away by Vegeta, who regards him as nothing more than trash. Goku pleads for Cass, Krillin, and Gohan to return home, and is met with Cass silently demanding that she stay. Goku, literally feeling her anger, asks Cass to help protect Gohan like she tried to a year ago. With this, she reluctantly agrees, and the trio leave Vegeta and Goku behind to their fight. The battle continues to play out as it usually did, until Vegeta's transformation into a great ape, which coerces the Flame Trio to return to Goku's aid. With Cass's assistance, Krillin's Destructo Disc actually succeeds in cutting Vegeta's tail off. Reverting back to his base state, Vegeta moves to attack Krillin for his transgression, but is practically dogpiled by a now revealed Yajirobe, who strikes Vegeta in the back. Vegeta knocks Yajirobe aside with a single punch a second after. Cass keeps Gohan back to take Vegeta on her own, amping her Ki Knuckles and giving Vegeta everything she has, such as the Machine Gun Punch, Volleyball Fist, and Dodon Ray.
To think, you Earthlings would be so stubborn! No matter, I'll ensure you'll join your friends in hell!
However, Vegeta's power is way too overwhelming, even if he's weakened. Waiting for his opening, Vegeta attempts to feint the enraged Cassandra. It fails, of course, seeing as Cassandra can see every move he's going to make. However, he quickly blasts her away, and the shockwave sends her back into some rocks. Gohan, after watching the exchange, attempts to battle Vegeta, but to no avail. It's only after the encouraging words from Goku that Gohan powers himself back up, engaging Vegeta in a head-to-head battle where he can actually hold his own. Meanwhile, Krillin takes the Spirit Bomb and prepares to fire, while an exhausted Gohan begins to lose his edge. Though Cass is no match for the Saiyan Prince, she does what she can to keep her promise to Goku and keep Gohan safe, not ready to see anyone else die, except for Vegeta. Cass had never taken a human life before. As a child, yeah, she killed to survive against wild animals, but she had never come close to feeling the same desire to kill as she did now. Her father's lessons began coming back to her. Her uncle's punishments for failure were returning to her in tenfold. Vegeta and Nappa had taken away almost everyone she loved and hurt so many people. In spite of her never having wanted to see anyone dead, she suddenly found herself wanting revenge. She suddenly found herself wanting Vegeta to suffer. The weakened Vegeta sent Cass and Gohan away with twin blasts of energy, crushing them under some rocks. With nothing left to lose, Krillin fires the Spirit Bomb and misses. Vegeta laughs. He's prepared to finish them off. But he's not expecting Gohan, with his father's words ringing in his mind, to hold his hands aloft and bounce the Spirit Bomb back at him. This time, however, it lands, bringing Vegeta almost to his breaking point. In a rage, as he seemingly shakes off the Spirit Bomb, he lets his energy explode outward. Krillin is buried in rubble, Goku's blown away, and Cass leaves harsh trenches in the ground as she struggles to stay standing. As the Saiyan Prince gets back up again, he's rushed by Cass, who scores a satisfying blow across Vegeta's face. As the two return to battle, Gohan gazes at Vegeta's power ball and descends to his own Great Ape form. Cass leaps aside as the monstrous child takes on Vegeta. When Gohan's tail is cut off by Vegeta's own Destructo Disc and he's crushed, the battle finally seems won. Vegeta calls for his escape pod, beginning to try and make a break for it, but he's stopped. Having recovered Yajirobe's sword from rubble, the child of mercenary Tao stands above Vegeta, her face masked in shadow. She sees red. Vegeta can feel the murderous intent coming from the human woman. As she holds the blade to Vegeta's neck, ready to end it, every lesson on swordplay, what places to cut to make it hurt, all being spoken by her father in her mind, came back to her.
No, I can't die. Not like this.
Before suddenly, Goku chimes in.
Kaz! He's beaten! You don't need to kill him. Let him go. Show him mercy. I know how you must be feeling, Cassandra. Your dad trained you to be a killer, right? When we first met you, you were going to kill us, right? But you didn't. Tien and Chaozu showed you that there was another way. I might be crazy, but for them, please, show Vegeta that same mercy. You don't need to be the killer Tao wanted you to be!
Her eyes brim with tears, and she feels hot shame for how badly she wanted to hurt the broken man. But she's still so angry. She raises the sword and stabs downward. The katana buries itself in the dirt, inches from Vegeta's head. The shocked Saiyan prince looks at her in confusion, body completely broken, as Cassandra says out loud in her own words,
"Leave. Never come back."
With that, Vegeta takes his leave. The conflicted Cassandra collapses onto her back, too spent to think anymore. Her rage is dissipated, and she feels only sorrow, as she allows herself to cry.
Tien, Chaozu, I am sorry.
And with that, we leave off with a little tease for the Namek Saga. How do you think Cass is going to do during it? Once again, I want to apologize for how long it took to get this episode out. From now on, I try to intend to keep the upload speed at least semi-consistent. With my job, it makes the frequency at which I can sit down and make these pretty inconsistent. But either way, I'm going to do my best regardless.